And I want you to know, I promise to be a president for all Americans. You can always trust me.
Vice President Kamala Harris closes out the Democratic National Convention, accepting her party's nomination for president. And one of the largest diamonds ever found was just unearthed. The Morning Rundown starts now.
From the Straight Arrow News Studio, bringing the stories that matter to you from across the United States and around the world. This is the Morning Rundown.
Today is Friday, August 23rd. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kara Rucker. Vice President Kamala Harris has officially accepted her party's nomination for president. The Democratic National Convention coming to a close after Harris addressed the crowd, laying out more of her policy vision for the nation and going after her Republican opponent, former President Donald Trump.
And I want you to know, I promise to be a president for all Americans. You can always trust me to put country above party and self. In many ways, Donald Trump is an unserious man. But the consequences of putting Donald Trump back in the White House are extremely serious.
During her speech, Harris vowed to create what she called an opportunity economy. Harris reiterated her stance that Israel has a right to defend itself, but pressed for a ceasefire deal and pledged to reform the U.S. immigration system. When her attention turned to the former president, she blamed him for Republicans voting against a bipartisan border bill, said Trump sent a mob to the Capitol on January 6th, and highlighted his now criminal record. Trump reacted to Harris's speech in a phone interview with Fox News following the close of the convention.
Well, the biggest reaction is, why didn't she do the things that she's complaining about? She could have done it 3.5 years ago. She could do it tonight by leaving the auditorium and going to Washington, D.C. and closing the border. She doesn't need a bill. I didn't have a bill. I closed the border. Then she could still do them. She's got 4.5, 5 months left.
Now the stage is officially set. The Democratic and Republican parties have spoken, setting the nation up for a Harris-Trump showdown. And as for Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the third-party candidate in the race, all eyes will be on his campaign today, as he is holding a press conference this afternoon. The speculation right now is Kennedy will be dropping out of the presidential race and potentially endorsing Trump. A few dozen protesters clashed briefly with Chicago police Thursday as Vice President Kamala Harris was speaking on the final night of the Democratic National Convention. It was a small group left over from the earlier demonstration. They had planned to march toward the convention center, but were blocked by rows of police in riot gear. It also came as delegates from the uncommitted movement ended their roughly 24-hour sit-in. They were calling for the Democratic National Convention to include a pro-Palestinian speaker. The group of about 40 unconfirmed delegates and supporters spent Wednesday night outside the United Center on the sidewalk and remained there until after 8 last night before finally going back inside to the convention. The United States Supreme Court agreed to temporarily reinstate a portion of a 2022 Arizona law that requires proof of citizenship when people register to vote. In a 5-4 ruling, the High Court gave a partial victory to Republicans who have been trying to enforce proof of citizenship as a requirement to cast a vote in November. While the justices ruled the state can enforce the requirement of proof of citizenship to vote using the state's registration form, the court turned down other requests that would bar voters who registered using a federal form or by mail unless they showed proof of citizenship. It's only a temporary ruling while litigation continues, so it's unclear as of now if, come November, voters in the state will have to show documentation they're a legal resident in order to cast a ballot. The Canadian government has now intervened in a labor dispute involving thousands of freight train workers. The deadlock on workers' contract negotiations could have led to a major economic disruption impacting goods coming into the United States. Canada's two largest railroads locked out more than 9,000 unionized workers on Thursday. But within hours, the government ordered the railroads to enter binding arbitration, and the trains are expected to resume running in a few days. The FDA has approved updated COVID vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna, putting the new shots on track to reach most Americans within days. These shots target a strain called KP2, which was the dominant COVID strain in May when we started seeing a summer surge of the virus. But now it only accounts for roughly 3% of all U.S. cases, according to the CDC. Still, Pfizer and Moderna say their KP2 vaccines can produce stronger immune responses against other circulating subvariants than sticking with last year's round of shots. Finally, this morning, we have some big news coming from Botswana, and we mean really big. The second biggest diamond ever found was just unearthed, according to the Canadian mining company that discovered the gem in one of its mines in the South African country. The 2,492-carat massive diamond is the biggest one found in more than a century, and it was located using X-ray technology. The mining company presenting Botswana's president with the huge stone on Thursday. The diamond will be evaluated over the next several weeks and will likely sell for tens of millions of dollars. The colossal stone is believed to be the biggest one found since a 3,106-carat diamond was discovered in South Africa in 1905, then cut into smaller stones, some of which make up the British royal family's crown jewels. These are your top stories for this Friday. We'll see you back here on Monday. Until then, I'm Kara Rucker. Have a great weekend.